was packed. And what do you think I saw? What do you think I saw?
What did you see?
Exactly what I thought I was gonna see.
What?
80 women sitting alone. No men in sight. None.
I saw so many Black women try to solve a problem in dating by starting to host events in person, trying to create third spaces to facilitate dating like offline. And you know what would happen every single time? The men were not signing up. They would be selling tickets to speed dating, and they would always end up with men's tickets on sale. Always, because they weren't buying any. Just the other day, a big account that I follow for Black creatives did like this cute Cupid thing where they were like, hey, send us a profile about yourself and we would love to post it and like play matchmaker. Sounds like a cute idea, right? Not one single man sent their profile in. And mind you, this is an account that has well over 100,000 followers. It's just time to stop. It's time to stop. They have made it very loud and clear that they do not
singles event, and here's why I think we're doomed to be single for the rest of our lives.
So I think this is, again, right, it's a multifaceted issue. It's not something as simple as saying that we create the dating events and the men don't show up. And that is the story that's pushed, right? There's never really talk of, well, why? I get, and one of the subscribers, daughter Sarah, mentioned like, women have always been a social glue. They've always created these events, created the spaces for people to interact. And I think that's unfathomably true. We're not really gonna argue that. I don't think we're capable of arguing that in good faith. But the point of this video and the previous video that I think is getting some traction right now is, and I think why it's getting traction is men have felt for such a long time that we've heard the messaging, and whether or not it's accurate, whether or not it's actually like the truth, men have heard that they're not wanted. They're not wanted in spaces. They're not wanted in these areas. We're not wanted. We're predators. You have to just take a second to imagine when you're constantly told that you're the villain, you're the thing that's wrong with society, the reason why nothing is really moving in the proper direction, or the constant cause of ill. That causes a lot of us to simply say, okay, we'll find and redirect our energy elsewhere. Because if women are saying that men are the bad guys, all right, we can't change your mind. We're not going to constantly butt up against that wall. And it took years, I'm saying a decade and a half, maybe 2 decades, for men to finally get that realization and say, okay, we hear you loud and clear. We're going to do something else. So I think right now we're seeing the effects of doing something else, where men are just saying, cool, I got you. Cool, I got you. But before we continue, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss new uploads. It's November. We're still trying to do 2 videos a day, see if we can close out the year with that streak intact. But this one, I think this video on the previous video we made sparked a lot of commentary. I think there was a lot of good points that were being made. Outside of, we don't want to make it seem like these things that women have created that they're not appreciated. We're just saying that men are saying it's too late. It's too late to return to how things were in the past. It's too late to just go back and say, okay, you created a space. Now men are just going to come up and volunteer, raise their hand, and say, hey, I'm here for it. The truth is, it takes time for change like this. Social change takes time. You want men back in these spaces? One, the first question asked, were they ever really in these spaces? Because a lot of these things, men say these are humiliation rituals. To go there to be told you're still unwanted, right? Picture it so you can understand from men's point of view. We're hearing right now, men, please come back, essentially, right? If we could just take away a lot of the fluff, take away a lot of the pride and the ego. You're saying, hey, we do want you here. We want you in these spaces. We want you around. Cool. When men show up, they're not the ones that then they're ridiculed for it. Or there's a story time on TikTok, or there's just something on a T app. There's just something going out there with men and saying, I did the thing you asked me to do, and the reward for it was agonizing. Agonizing. So I think we need to inject a little more realism to some of these conversations. The men that do show up, you don't want. That's always been the case, right? Those are the same men in your DMs. They're coming out to these events. Not saying they're not quality men come out to events, but they're obviously not the men that you want, because these events aren't void of men, right? even if they're in small numbers, some are still coming. Some are still real. Okay, I'm going to come out because I do want to meet someone. Men, I do believe, still want to be in healthy partnerships with women. There's just a lot to sort of swim through. There's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of trauma to swim through. So men say to feel like they come to a space and say it's worth it again. Right now, they're not feeling that. So when these conversations are being had and saying, well, the men aren't coming to these spaces, the men we want aren't coming to these spaces. Those are the same men that still have meet the same prereqs that are being said they want. Even if, and we'll separate this because one of the comments said, these prereqs that being said, that they're not the reality of what women in mass are looking for. And I agree. Because 17% of most of men are 6 feet or above, just starting there. But we see plenty of happily married couples or people in relationship with men that are not 6 feet. Right? That's a thing that's been propagated, I think, by the internet and social media. While it is a preference, while it is a thing, I don't think it's the end all be all. So even as that's the case, what men have been saying, what I've been saying, is that when you go into these spaces and you hear prominent, important people that we take our cues from, or people on social media in general saying these things, what we don't see is the counter argument. All we sort of hear is like, well, social media is kind of a lie and most women don't really care about this. There's not a counter voice to that. When you're saying, hey, we don't want men are the worst, and fill in the blank, blah, 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 fill it out. We don't hear women coming back and saying, well, no, even with all their trials, even with all their ills, and even with all our hours, we still want men. They're still lovely, they're still beautiful. We still want our men. We don't really hear that, right? And that's the fault of that's our own fault as a society. When you hear something that's bad, right, in front of you, and you're like, well, it doesn't really concern me, and you're silent because you're happily married, right? You're in a happy, loving, committed relationship. You got your person. You abstain from saying anything in those conversations. You abstain from being the counter voice. You abstain from being the counter narrative. So what happens? That same message propagates and it keeps going forward. Men have listened to that and been inundated with that. So now it's very hard for men to say, I'm willing to come back to the table because it doesn't feel like it's one in good faith. It's very early. You've driven down a one-way street at full speed and suddenly want to slam on the brakes and hit reverse. Everything is ajar. Inertia is a bitch, right? You can't really ignore that part. And what we're feeling right now is inertia. Men are saying, wait a second, now you want us back? But at the same time, we're still hearing messaging saying that you still ain't shit. It's hard for men to operate and think this is in good faith. All it sounds like to us is that time has played its part. Time is getting to the point where it's saying, hey, you may not end up with anyone. On both sides, right? Genderless on both sides. Men, again, have had to deal with this idea for such a long time. You're going to, if you don't play this hand right, if you don't navigate this thing life and success and success in the world, the success in dating, if you don't navigate this thing right, you may end up alone. Even if you do have someone, you may end up alone, right? That's a more nuanced conversation. So men have had to deal with this monkey on their back forever. And we just don't have the propensity to get online and voice this out loud. This is not to say we don't experience it. This is not to say we're not dealing with the threat of loneliness and ending up and dying alone. We just don't put it out there. We've just dealt with that angst for such a long time already that it's kind of just like a Tuesday for us. I think women, especially as they get older, now it's sort of settling in that, yeah, you were lied to. You were lied to that it was just a simple thing. When you hear, well, I'm single by choice, okay, that may be, but when you are finally, hit that switch and may decide, okay, now I'm ready to look for someone, you may find that the game is very much different or your position in it is very much different. So, okay, like the woman was saying, I see so many women trying to solve a problem in dating and create these spaces. Okay, you're trying to solve the problem in dating. You're trying to solve a social problem. The social problem takes generations, a generation to fix. We didn't realize this when we were at each other's throats. We didn't have this idea, this compunction of what it would take to course correct. We have to course correct now. We may have what, we've referred to later on as a lost generation, where we didn't get it right. We didn't get it right in time, and we just had to pass the baton and hope that a generation or two removed will get it right. We'll see that what we did is wrong in terms of, actually procreation, actually creating families. We may see, we got it wrong. And the next generation following mine, I'm a millennial, next generation, they may not be able to course correct in time, but maybe the following one will. Maybe we'll get it right there. We don't know. So just creating the space, just being the social glue. Yeah. Maybe it's time men create these spaces to interact with each other. Men have never really done that, right? They've never really done that. I don't think there's any real inclination to do so. If men, because we don't feel that need for that social sort of glue, that connectivity, that's not inherent. That's not the most important thing. If I have free time, if I'm off for the rest of the year, I'm thinking about what projects I can sort of dedicate myself wholly to. I'm not thinking that maybe you need to pause and give yourself a break and relax and rejuvenate, take care of your body, take care of your mind, take care of your soul. I'm not thinking of that. But those things come inherently to women. They understand that. They understand the need to nurture. Men, we will run ourselves ragged and call it a good life. So when you want to say, we want to answer that question, where have the men gone? Or how come men don't show up to these spaces? Because these spaces were never really inherently for us. They're here to facilitate a need for women in terms of partnering. Men, if you want to catch the prey, you have to use the appropriate bait. You have to use the appropriate lure. The lure being relationships with women is lost its sort of luster. So men aren't looking at this and saying, okay, I want to be with someone. I want to be with a woman. So yeah, maybe those will be the ones that go. In large mass, the ones that remain behind are saying, I may want that, but I don't think it's possible because of all the rhetoric they've heard, their own experience, their own personal experience. The thing I'll leave with, I think men have come to the point they realize the thing that is always sort of rewarded them is that grind, is that going to work, is that finding something to do with their own time. They find that really more rewarding and more stable than saying, okay, I'm going to go to an event. I go to an event, I'm told that I'm wanted here. I've bought the ticket. I've showed up. You get there. And even when you're just, in the minority, right? Like the Atlanta scene, you're in the minority. You're still not wanted. You're still not chosen. It only takes a couple of men to go there, report back, or for us to hear it and say, okay, when we do hear these things, even if we wanted to go, we see that it's not effective. It's not a good use of our time. So the men just say they abstain. I think that's where we're at with it. If you want men to show up to these events, then I think it's going to be something that needs to be done in collaboration with the men you want. You have to find a way to talk to them in ways that make sense to them. And you should be understanding of why they don't think it's possible. When men don't show up, they're not the villains for it. We've already been cast in that role, and we're saying enough. How can you have, what is that saying? What happens if you have a war and no one shows up? Well, what happens when you cast a villain and they never show up? I think that's where men are sort of going with this now. If I already know I'm going to bad guy, I'm going to be the bad guy, right? It's like that old thing, and I've experienced this in relationships in the past. If I bring something up to you and I'm arguing with you about something, I want to discuss something, but I'm going to be made the bad guy anyway. I just say, you know what? Let me just skip to the end where I'm the bad guy anyway, not have this conversation. It's going to end that way anyway. So we just don't have it. We stay silent, and we've seen what staying silent sort of brought us. So now that men are that are available, are free, yeah, they're just saying, I'm going to find something else to do with my time. Listen, if you think I missed something, let me know down in the comments, right? If you see any videos on the screen right now, so inclined, go ahead and take a look at those. If you listen to my voice right now, you know what I'm going to say. You're killing me if you hasn't subscribed. You watched the entire video, probably threw a comment on there, right? Probably liked it. If you liked it, you should like it. Or like the comment down here. Why not subscribe? I'll see you guys in the next one.